The GSV Primal limped back to Nexus 7 3 days later. Its hull was scarred and burned. Whole sections of armor plating were missing, but it was intact and all 1.2 million refugees were safe. The orbital station buzzed with activity. Word of the Terran 9 rescue had spread through Council space like wildfire. Delegates who had mocked the Primal now studied footage of the battle with uncomfortable expressions. The humans who had been classified as militarily insignificant had achieved what would have taken a full Council fleet to accomplish. Captain Jiwan stood at attention in the Council chamber. Beside him stood Ambassador Mireille and Engineer Hyun. Around them, hundreds of delegates from across the galaxy filled the curved seating. At the center, High Commander Vexthor looked like he'd swallowed something bitter. Captain Jiwan, Vexthor began, the Council has reviewed your combat recordings. We have questions. I'm sure you do, Jiwan replied evenly. Senator Krill stood up, his mandibles clicking rapidly. You deliberately misled us. When you presented the Primal, you made it appear primitive and weak. But those weapons, that armor, those tactics, you hid your true capabilities. We hid nothing, Ambassador Mireille interjected. We showed you exactly what the Primal was. You simply made assumptions based on appearances. Semantics. Krill's voice rose. You knew we would underestimate you. Yes, Jiwan said bluntly. We did. The chamber erupted in angry chatter. Vexthor called for order, slamming one of his 4 fists on his console. Captain, you will explain yourself. Now. Counselor Young stood up from the human section. The older diplomat's face was calm but firm. If I may, High Commander, I can explain our design philosophy. Please do, Vexthor said coldly. Young activated a hologram showing human history. Images of ancient wars filled the air. Trenches and tanks, battleships and bombers, nuclear explosions and burning cities. Humanity has been fighting wars for our entire existence, Young began. Real wars, not border disputes or trade conflicts. Wars where entire civilizations were at stake. Wars that killed millions. We learned hard lessons that most species have forgotten. What lessons? Another delegate asked. That elegance doesn't win battles. That technology fails. That shields drop and computers crash and perfect plans fall apart the moment combat starts. Yang gestured to the Primal's image. So we built our ships for one purpose, to keep fighting when everything goes wrong. Engineer Hyun stepped forward. Every system on the Primal has 3 backup systems. Our weapons are deliberately simple so they won't fail. Our armor is thick because shields can be overwhelmed. We use human pilots because they can improvise when automated systems can't. But the weapons, Senator Krill insisted. Nuclear warheads? Kinetic projectiles? These are relics from primitive ages. No, Captain Jiwan corrected. They're weapons that work. The swarm evolved to counter energy-based attacks. Their biology adapted to deflect or absorb plasma, lasers, particle beams. All the advanced weapons you love. He pulled up footage from the battle, but they'd never encountered solid metal moving at relativistic speeds. They'd never seen nuclear fission. Their evolution left them vulnerable to what you call primitive. Dr. Suman appeared on a secondary screen from the Primal's medical bay. I've completed my analysis of the swarm's biology. Their carapaces contain specialized cells that dissipate and redirect energy. It's incredibly sophisticated, but it's useless against physical impact. You got lucky, Vexthor declared. You happened to have the right weapons for this specific enemy. Luck had nothing to do with it, Counselor Young replied. We designed the Primal to fight unknown threats. We didn't know what we'd face out here, so we brought every weapon type we could. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons. We prepared for every possibility. Because you've actually fought wars, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see Governor Thex standing in the viewing gallery. I was wrong about humanity. I called them primitive. I laughed at their museum piece. Then that museum piece saved my entire planet. Thex walked down to the main floor. His legs still showed bandages from the swarm attack. The Council's ships are beautiful, elegant, advanced. But the Primal was built by people who understand that war is ugly and brutal. It's not about looking sophisticated. It's about surviving. Senator Krill made a dismissive gesture. One battle proves nothing. The swarm was an anomaly. Against proper military vessels, these human weapons would fail. The chamber went very quiet. Captain G1's expression didn't change, but his eyes grew cold. Senator, are you suggesting we should test that theory? I'm suggesting that the Council needs to understand the full extent of human capabilities, Krill replied. For security purposes, you could be a threat. A threat to whom? Ambassador Mirai asked sharply. We just saved 1.2 million Council citizens. How many ships did your species send to help? The Krill fleet was repositioning. You were scared, Jiwan interrupted. You've built ships that can't take damage because you've never had to. You rely on shields because you forgot how to armor properly. You use automated drones because you forgot that living pilots can think creatively. He gestured at the Council members. Every species here has let their military decay because you haven't fought a real enemy in centuries. How dare you? Vexthor started. I dare because it's true, Jiwan continued. Humanity joined the Council hoping to learn from more advanced species. Instead, we found people who've forgotten the basics of warfare. Your technology is impressive, but it's fragile. The moment something unexpected happens, your perfect systems fail. This is outrageous, Senator Krill shouted. High Commander, we cannot allow this insult to stand. But other voices were joining the debate now. Delegates who had reviewed the battle footage carefully. Species who understood military matters even if they hadn't fought recently. The human is right, one delegate admitted. Our weapons couldn't penetrate the swarm's armor. Our shields failed against their acid. If they'd attacked a core world, we'd have been helpless. The Primal's design is crude but effective. Another agreed. Perhaps we should reconsider our own military doctrine. High Commander Vexthor held up a hand for silence. His four eyes studied Captain Jiwan carefully. Let me be clear, Captain. Your victory has earned humanity respect, but it has also made you a concern. Ships that can fight when shields fail, weapons that work when others don't, tactics we don't understand. How do we know you won't use these advantages against the Council? You don't, G1 replied honestly. Just like we don't know if the Velkari Empire will respect our borders now that we've proven ourselves. Trust works both ways, High Commander. Mirai stepped forward quickly. The Council faces a choice. You can accept humanity as an equal partner and learn from our different approach to military engineering, or you can continue to treat us as inferior and miss the opportunity to strengthen your own defenses. Strengthen by becoming more primitive? Krill scoffed. Strengthen by being more complete, Counselor Yang corrected. Your energy weapons are powerful. Our kinetic weapons are reliable. Your shields are impressive. Our armor is durable. Together, we'd have ships that could handle any threat. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted to integrate human military technology immediately. Others wanted restrictions on human weapons development. A few, led by Senator Krill, wanted humanity expelled from the Council entirely. Finally, as the debate reached a deadlock, alarms blared throughout the station. An urgent message appeared on every screen. The room fell silent as the officer delivered the news. Emergency broadcast to all Council members. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching from the Galactic Rim. Identification matches Rathkar swarm signatures. Fleet size, estimated at 50,000 bioships and growing. The chamber exploded in panic. 50,000 ships, 10 times larger than the force that attacked Terran 9. This wasn't a raiding party. This was an invasion. Where are they heading? Vexthor demanded. Directly toward core Council space, High Commander. They'll reach the outer colonies in 3 weeks, inner systems in 2 months. Senator Krill's mandibles trembled. We need to mobilize the entire Council fleet. Every ship we have. Even with every ship, we might not be enough, another delegate said quietly. If they're all like the ones that attacked Terran 9, our weapons won't work. Our shields won't hold. All eyes turned to Captain Jiwan, the human who everyone had mocked, the captain of the primitive carrier that had won an impossible battle. High Commander Vexthor stood slowly. Captain Jiwan, I apologize for our earlier dismissal of your capabilities. Humanity deserves full Council membership and military authority. He paused. I also formally request your assistance in defending Council space from the swarm invasion. You want humanity to save you? Jiwan said flatly. Yes. The chamber waited. This was humanity's moment of revenge. They could refuse. They could watch the Council burn. After all the mockery and disrespect, no one could blame them. Captain Jiwan looked at his fellow humans. Ambassador Mirai nodded slightly. Counselor Yang gave an encouraging smile. Engineer Hyun's expression said, do what's right. Earth has 7 carriers, Jiwan said finally. all built to the same specifications as the Primal. We'll need time to mobilize them and train your fleets in anti-swarm tactics. The GSV Primal dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Terran 9 system. Captain G1 studied the tactical display with grim focus. What he saw made his jaw tighten. "Report," he ordered quietly. Lieutenant Hana worked her console quickly. "Orbital defense platforms are gone. All 6 of them. Colony shields are at 15% and dropping. I'm reading atmospheric fires in 3 major cities." She looked up, her young face pale. "Sir, there are at least 800 bioships in orbit. The swarm is everywhere." Engineer Hyun pulled up a visual feed. The colony world below was beautiful, or had been. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. Now black smoke rose from burning cities. The swarm's vessels moved through space like diseased organs, pulsing and twisting. They ranged from fighter-sized to frigate-sized, all organic, all hungry. "Get me Governor Thex," G1 ordered, "and wake up Commander Doyen. Tell him to prep all fighter squadrons." The communication channel crackled to life. Governor Thex appeared on screen, his insectoid features twisted with stress. Behind him, explosions lit up the sky. "Who is this?" "Are you the Council fleet?" "GSV Primal, United Earth Forces," G1 replied. "We're here to evacuate your people." Thex's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter or despair. "Earth, the primitives? High Command sent you?" He gestured at something off-screen. "Look at what's attacking us. These bioships melt through our strongest alloys. Their acid eats through energy shields like they're not even there. What can your museum piece possibly do?" "Our job," G1 said flatly. "How many people can you get to evacuation points in the next 6 hours?"
6 hours?
"The colony shield will fail in 4. Once that happens, the swarm will—" Dex stopped, looking at something on his end. "Wait, my sensors show your ship entering orbit. Are you insane? You'll be torn apart. Evacuation points, Governor. How many people?" Thex seemed to realize he had no other options. 800,000 maybe. "We have shuttles ready, but nowhere safe to send them. The swarm destroys anything that tries to leave atmosphere." "Send them to these coordinates," G1 transmitted the data. "We'll provide air cover and take everyone aboard. Your carrier can't hold 800,000 beings." "It can," Engineer Hyun called out. "We built her for exactly this kind of operation." The channel closed. G1 turned to his crew. "Helm, take us into low orbit. Weapons, power up all defensive turrets. Hyun, I want shields at minimum. Divert that power to structural integrity fields, sir." Hana looked confused. "No shields? They won't help against acid weapons anyway," Hyun explained, already working his controls. "But reinforcing the hull structure will help the armor absorb damage better." Commander Doyen burst onto the bridge, still pulling on his flight suit. The stocky pilot grinned despite the situation. "I hear we're fighting bugs. My favorite. Take your squadrons down and establish air superiority over the evacuation zones," G1 ordered. "The swarm will try to stop the shuttles. Don't let them." "Yes, sir." Doyen saluted and ran for the hangar decks. The Primal shook as it entered the upper atmosphere. Warning alarms blared as swarm bioships noticed the new arrival. Dozens of them broke off from the colony attack and swarmed toward the carrier. "Here they come," Hana reported. 30 contacts, no, 50. They're moving fast. Weapons free, G1 commanded. "Fire at will." The Primal's point defense turrets opened up. Streams of metal slugs tore through space, old-fashioned lead and tungsten moving at incredible speeds. The first wave of bioships ran straight into the defensive fire. Their organic armor, evolved to deflect energy weapons, offered no protection against solid projectiles. Dozens of them burst apart like rotten fruit, but more kept coming. They spat streams of green-yellow acid at the Primal's hull. The caustic liquid splashed across the armor plating, eating into the metal with a horrible hissing sound. "Hull breach on Deck 47, damage control reported. The acid is eating through." "Seal that section," G1 ordered. "Hyun?" "Watching it, sir." The engineer studied his readouts carefully. The outer armor layer is compromised, but the acid isn't reaching the inner layers. Just like we calculated. The Primal's armor wasn't simple metal plating. Each section consisted of 7 different layers, each designed to counter a specific threat. The outer layer was designed to ablate away under chemical attack, taking the acid with it. Beneath that, ceramic composite layers would stop the acid from spreading. The innermost layers were the actual structural hull. "How long can we last?" G1 asked. "Against this level of fire? About 18 hours before we need to regenerate the outer layer." More than enough time. Below, Commander Doyen led his fighters into atmosphere. The swarm had bioships circling the evacuation zones like vultures. They were smaller than the space combat variants evolved for atmospheric flight. They dove at the crowds of refugees with grasping tentacles and acid spit. "All wings, follow my lead," Doyen called over the squadron channel. "Remember your training." These things evolved to fight drones. They expect predictable attack patterns. Be unpredictable. The human fighters screamed out of the clouds. Unlike the automated drones used by most species, each craft had a living pilot inside. The swarm's targeting systems, designed to predict and counter programmed flight paths, couldn't adjust fast enough. Doyen's fighter jinked left when it should have gone right, rolled when it should have climbed. His cannon shredded 2 bioships before they even knew he was there. "That's how you do it," he whooped. "These bugs can't handle a pilot with actual instincts." The evacuation began. Shuttles lifted off from designated zones carrying thousands of refugees. The Primal's fighters kept the swarm away from the fleeing craft. On the ground, Dr. Suman set up emergency medical stations with her team. The doctor was used to treating humans, but Terran 9 hosted dozens of different species. She worked quickly, applying universal medical protocols while her medical AI advised on species-specific treatments. Wounded were stabilized and loaded onto shuttles. The most critical cases came directly to the Primal's medical bays. "We're going to save them," Suman said to herself as she worked. "All of them." 6 hours passed. The Primal took continuous fire from the swarm, its outer armor layers slowly melting away. But the inner hull held strong. Shuttles came and went in an endless stream. 800,000 refugees became 850,000. 900,000. Governor Thex appeared on the bridge screen again. This time his eyes showed respect instead of contempt. "Captain, we've exceeded our estimates. Your ship is actually holding against the swarm. I never thought—" "How many more?" Jiwan interrupted. "Another 200,000 are reaching evacuation points. But Captain, my shields are about to fail completely. When that happens, the swarm will blanket the entire planet. Then we'd better hurry." Jiwan checked his tactical display. The swarm was massing for something big. More bioships dropped out of whatever dark space they traveled through. Hundreds more. Thousands more. "Sir?" Hana's voice was tight with worry. "I'm reading massive energy signatures. The swarm is calling in reinforcements. Big ones." On screen, the space around Terran 9 filled with new contacts. These weren't small fighter craft. These were capital ships, each one the size of a cruiser. They surrounded the planet like a noose tightening. "They're going after the Primal," Hyun said quietly. "They figured out we're the only thing stopping them." Jiwan watched the display. 3,000 swarm ships now surrounded his carrier. If they all attacked at once, even the Primal's incredible armor wouldn't hold forever. "Commander Doyun, get your fighters back to the ship," he ordered. "All shuttles emergency recall. We need to leave now." "Sir, we still have civilians on the ground," Hana protested. "I know." Jiwon's voice was hard. "But if we stay, we lose everyone. The Primal included. Wait." Hyun was checking something on his console. His eyes went wide. "Sir, the last shuttle just cleared atmosphere." "We got them all." "What?" "All 1.2 million, Hyun confirmed. "Every civilian who reached an evacuation point is either aboard or in a shuttle heading here. We actually did it." For just a moment, Jiwon let himself feel pride. Then the swarm moved. All 3,000 bioships turned toward the Primal as one. The hive mind had made its decision. This strange metal vessel had taken its prey. It had to be destroyed. "Battle stations," Jiwon ordered. "All power to engines and weapons. Hyun, give me everything the Primal has." "Sir, if we fight here, we might not survive. Then we'll make it count." Jiwon stood up from his chair. "This ship was built to take damage. Let's show the galaxy why humans still believe in armor." The swarm attacked. 3,000 bioships moved as one living thing. They spiraled around the GSV Primal like a closing fist, blocking out the stars. On the bridge, alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. Every screen showed incoming threats from every direction. "Contact in 30 seconds, Lieutenant Hana called out. Her voice stayed steady despite the fear in her eyes. "They're going to hit us all at once." Captain Jiwon gripped his command chair. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They drilled for this. Every human ship trained for the worst possible scenario. "This was it. All civilians secure?" he asked. "Locked down in the core sections," Engineer Hyun confirmed. "Exactly 1.2 million beings, safe as we can make them." Weapons Officer Jiho status? The weapons officer looked up from his console with a cold smile. All systems green, sir. Railguns loaded and ready. Missile tubes hot. Point defense turrets tracking targets. Good. Jiwan took a deep breath. On my mark, show them what these primitive weapons can actually do. The swarm struck first. Streams of acid poured from thousands of bioships at once, converging on the Primal from every angle. The caustic fluid splashed across the carrier's hull like a toxic waterfall. Metal hissed and bubbled. Whole sections of outer armor melted away. Hull integrity dropping, Hyun reported. 75%, 70 still holding. Now Jiho fire everything. The Primal's broadside lit up space. Railguns that had seemed primitive and stupid suddenly showed their true purpose. Tungsten slugs accelerated to incredible speeds, each one carrying as much kinetic energy as a small bomb. They punched through the swarm's organic armor like it wasn't even there. Bioships exploded by the dozens. The swarm's evolution had prepared them for energy weapons, plasma, lasers, particle beams. All the advanced technology the galaxy loved, but solid metal moving at relativistic speeds? Their carapaces might as well have been paper. Direct hits on 47 targets, Jiho called out. 53, 61, they're not even trying to dodge. They don't know how, Jiwan replied. Keep firing. The Primal's missile tubes opened next. Old-fashioned chemical rockets launched in waves, each one tipped with a nuclear warhead. The Council species had abandoned such crude weapons millennia ago. Too dirty, they said. Too inelegant. Too dangerous to use. The swarm had never seen them before. The first nuclear detonation vaporized 30 bioships in a flash of light and heat. The second got 40. The third hit a dense cluster and destroyed nearly 100. The swarm recoiled, confused. Their sensors couldn't understand what kind of weapon released so much raw energy so quickly. Keep them coming, G1 ordered. Don't give them time to adapt. Commander Doyen's fighters launched from the Primal's hangar bays. The small craft scattered in every direction, each pilot flying their own chaotic pattern. The swarm tried to target them with the same tactics they'd used against automated drones. But human pilots didn't fly in predictable formations. They didn't follow programmed attack patterns. This is Red Leader, Doyen called over the squadron channel. All wings free for all. Make these bugs dizzy. His fighter spiraled through a gap between two bioships, guns blazing. Behind him, his wingmate pulled an impossible turn that would have killed a drone's collision avoidance systems. 3 more pilots dove straight down through the swarm formation, then scattered in different directions. The bioship's targeting systems couldn't keep up. They'd evolved to fight machines that flew logically. Human pilots flew on instinct, emotion, and pure creative chaos. Back on the Primal's bridge, Lieutenant Hana tracked the larger picture. Sir, the swarm is adapting. They're learning to dodge the railgun slugs. Then target the ones that aren't moving yet, Jiwan replied. He studied the tactical display, looking for patterns. The swarm wasn't random. It had an intelligence directing it. Hana, can you find their command vessel? Looking now. Her fingers flew over her console. There, approximately 15 kilometers to our stern. It's larger than the others and heavily protected by smaller units. That's their brain, Hyun confirmed. Bioscans show incredibly dense neural tissue. That thing is coordinating the entire attack. Jiho, can we hit it? The weapons officer shook his head. Too many smaller ships in the way. They're using them as shields. Then we go through them. Jiwan turned to the helm officer. Set course directly for that command vessel. Ramming speed, the bridge went quiet. Engineer Hyun looked up from his console. Sir, if we do that, the Primal was built to take damage, Jiwan interrupted. Time to trust your design. Full speed ahead. The massive carrier began to move. Not the gentle maneuvering of a ship trying to preserve itself, but the steady acceleration of a hammer coming down. The Primal wasn't elegant. It wasn't graceful. It was 5 million tons of metal and determination moving in a straight line. Bioships threw themselves at the carrier trying to stop it. Acid ate away layers of armor. Tentacles grabbed at weapon turrets. Organic missiles burst against the hull. The Primal kept moving. Its point defense turrets never stopped firing. Its armor kept absorbing damage. Its engines pushed harder. Hull integrity at 50%, Hyun reported. His voice was tense but controlled. Still within acceptable parameters. Launch nuclear weapons on our projected path, Jiwan ordered. Clear the way, missiles screamed forward. Nuclear fire bloomed in the void, each detonation clearing a path through the swarm. The Primal followed the trail of destruction, its massive bulk shoving aside the burning remains of bioships. Dr. Suman worked frantically in the medical bay as the ship shook. Wounded from the evacuation needed treatment. The injured were from dozens of species. Each one had different needs, different biologies. She moved between patients, checking vital signs, administering medication, trying to save lives while the battle raged outside. "How much longer?" she asked over the intercom. "Unknown," Jiwan replied. "Stay ready for anything." The Primal closed the distance. 10 kilometers. 5. The swarm's command vessel tried to retreat, but it was too large to move quickly. Smaller bioships formed a living wall, sacrificing themselves to protect their leader. "Jiho, I need a shot," Jiwan said. "Working on it, sir." The weapons officer targeted their largest railgun. "One shot. That's all we'll get before we're too close. Make it count." The railgun fired. A single tungsten slug, 500 kilograms of metal moving at 30% the speed of light. It punched through 3 bioships before they even registered the threat. It struck the command vessel dead center. The swarm's leader didn't explode. Instead, it seemed to deflate like a balloon losing air. Neural fluid leaked from the wound. The massive bioship shuddered and went still. Instantly, the smaller bioships lost coordination. They stopped moving in patterns and started acting randomly. Some continued attacking. Others fled. Many just drifted, waiting for orders that would never come. "The hive mind is broken," Hana reported. "They're confused, disorganized." "Finish them," Jiwan ordered. The Primal's weapons continued firing. Without coordination, the swarm couldn't defend itself. What had been a deadly enemy minutes ago became target practice. Bioships died by the hundreds. The survivors finally understood they couldn't win and scattered into deep space. 30 minutes later, the battle was over. The space around Terran 9 was filled with floating debris and dead bioships. The Primal hung in orbit, its hull scarred and melted but still intact. In the engineering spaces, damage control teams worked to patch the worst breaches. "Final casualty count?" Jiwan asked quietly. 23 crew injured, none critically," Hyun reported. "No fatalities. All refugees secure and healthy. The ship took severe damage, but nothing we can't repair." On the main screen, Governor Thex appeared again. The Krill governor looked like he'd aged 10 years. "Captain G1, I don't know what to say. You saved everyone. That museum piece of yours just fought off 3,000 swarm ships and won." "It's not a museum piece," G1 replied. "It's a warship." "There's a difference, I see that now." Thex paused. "The Galactic Council is demanding a full report. They want to know how you did this. Tell them the truth. We used primitive weapons against an enemy that didn't know how to defend against them. We used human pilots instead of drones. We built our ship to survive damage instead of trying to avoid it completely. They're not going to like that answer." "I don't care if they like it," G1 said. "I care that it worked." Commander Doyen appeared on a secondary screen, his face smudged with soot but grinning. "Sir, all fighters accounted for. We didn't lose a single pilot. Those bugs never knew what hit them. Good work, Commander. Get your people some rest." Engineer Hyun pulled up damage schematics. "Sir, we need to head back to Nexus 7 for proper repairs. The outer armor is mostly gone. We used up 60% of our munitions, and the reactors need maintenance after running at full power for so long." "Set course for home," Jiwan agreed. He looked at the tactical display one more time, at the evidence of the battle they'd won. "And someone sent a message to Ambassador Mirai. Tell her we're coming back, and we expect that council vote to be reconsidered." As the Primal turned away from Terran 9, every survivor on the planet below watched. The crude primitive carrier that everyone had mocked had done the impossible. It had saved them all. The grand hall of Orbital Station Nexus 7 buzzed with activity as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the annual military expo. Holographic displays showed off sleek warships with shimmering energy shields and elegant plasma cannons. The air smelled of ozone and expensive perfumes from a dozen different worlds. Captain G1 stood quietly in the human section, watching the other species admire each other's technology. "They're about to call us," Ambassador Mirai whispered beside him. Her formal dress uniform looked plain compared to the elaborate robes worn by other diplomats. "Are you ready for this?" G1 nodded once. His face showed nothing, but his hands were steady on the presentation remote. Behind him, Engineer Hyun adjusted his glasses nervously. The young man had spent 5 years building the Primal, and now the entire galaxy would judge his work. High Commander Vexthor of the Velkari Empire stepped onto the central platform. His scales glittered under the station lights and his forearms gestured dramatically. And now, his voice boomed through translators, we welcome our newest member to present their contribution, the humans. Polite applause followed, mixed with a few chittering sounds that Ji-Wan recognized as laughter. He walked to the platform and activated the hologram. The GSV Primal appeared above the crowd, rotating slowly. The laughter got louder immediately. The Primal was massive, easily twice the size of most warships in the hall. But where other vessels curved elegantly with smooth lines and glowing energy fields, the Primal looked blocky and crude. Thick gray armor plates covered every surface. Exposed weapons turrets bristled from the hull like ancient fortifications. The engines were huge cylinders that looked like they belonged in a museum. Senator Krill stood up from his seat. The insect-like being's mandibles clicked in amusement. Captain, is this a historical recreation? Surely your species doesn't actually fly in such primitive vessels. More laughter erupted. Ji-Wan waited for it to die down before speaking. The GSV Primal is fully operational and ready for deployment. She carries 3,000 crew members, 200 fighter craft, and enough supplies for 6 months of independent operation. But the armor, another delegate called out. Physical armor plating? We abandoned such crude defenses 3,000 years ago. Energy shields are far superior. And those weapons, Vexthor added, his voice dripping with condescension. Are those kinetic cannons? You're actually throwing metal at your enemies. How delightfully barbaric. Engineer Hyun shifted uncomfortably, but Ji-Wan's expression never changed. The Primal's weapon systems are designed for maximum effectiveness against a wide range of threats. A museum piece, Vexthor declared, waving one of his hands dismissively. This is what happens when a species reaches space travel before achieving true technological sophistication. Tell me, Captain, does your ship still use nuclear power? Do your pilots actually sit inside those fighters, or have you at least discovered automated drones? Our pilots are living beings, yes, Ji-Wan confirmed. And our primary power source is fusion-based with fission backup systems. The hall erupted in fresh laughter. Even Ambassador Mirai looked uncomfortable now. She stepped forward to defend humanity's choices, but Ji-Wan put a hand on her shoulder. Let them laugh, his eyes said. Let them think they know everything. I propose, Senator Krill announced, that we classify humanity in the lowest military tier. Clearly, they need time to develop proper defensive technology before participating in Council military operations. The vote was quick and unanimous. Only the human delegation abstained. Ji-Wan watched as their status was officially downgraded on the main display. This would limit Earth's trading rights and territorial claims. Years of diplomatic work had just been erased in minutes. Perhaps in a few centuries, Vexthor said with false sympathy, your species will catch up to modern standards. Until then, stick to exploring empty systems and leave serious military matters to those of us with actual warships. The expo continued with other presentations, but nobody paid attention to the humans anymore. Ji-Wan, Mirai, and Hyun returned to their quarters in silence. Only when the door sealed behind them did Hyun finally speak. They don't understand, he said quietly. They think old means weak. They've never fought a real war, Ji-Wan replied, pouring water for each of them. Not in living memory. Their conflicts are all simulated battles and border skirmishes. They've forgotten what it means to actually need your ship to survive. Mirai sat down heavily. 5 years of work and they laughed at us. The Council won't take humanity seriously for decades now. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, Hyun suggested. He pulled up a schematic on his tablet, showing the Primal's internal systems. They see thick armor and think we're stupid. They don't see the reactive plating that can regenerate. They see kinetic weapons and think we're primitive. They don't see the railguns that can punch through any shield ever made. Doesn't matter now, Mirai sighed. We've been classified as militarily insignificant. That means reduced trade access, smaller territory grants, and no voice in defense decisions. An alarm suddenly blared through the station. All 3 of them looked up as an emergency broadcast replaced the normal displays. A Krill officer appeared, all 4 of his eyes wide with panic. Attention all delegates. We have received a distress signal from Colony Terran 9 in the Outer Rim. The Rathkar swarm has breached their defenses. Estimated population at risk, 1.2 million beings. Request immediate military assistance. The council chamber filled with concerned chatter. Ji-Wan checked his datapad quickly. Terran 9 was 8 days away at maximum speed. The swarm had been ravaging outer colonies for months, but this was the first major population center they'd hit. High Commander Vex Thor called for order. The nearest council fleet is 3 weeks away. We need to mobilize immediately, but by the time we arrive, the colony will be gone. Senator Krill finished grimly. We can't abandon 1.2 million people, but we can't save them either. G1 stood up. Every head in the chamber turned toward him. The Primal can reach Terran 9 in 7 days, he said clearly. We volunteer for the rescue mission. Silence fell over the room. Then slowly laughter began again, smaller this time, more nervous but still mocking. With respect, Captain, Vex Thor said, your museum piece would be destroyed before you even reached orbit. The swarm's bioships use acid-based weapons that dissolve advanced alloys in seconds. Your primitive armor wouldn't last minutes. Then humanity will fail trying, Jiwan replied. But we won't fail by doing nothing. Ambassador Mireille stood beside him, understanding in her eyes. This was a suicide mission by any calculation, but it was also their only chance to prove that humanity deserved respect. The council voted quickly. Why not let the humans try? If they succeeded, wonderful. If they failed, well, they'd been warned. Either way, it solved the problem of what to do with Earth's embarrassing military. Approved, Vex Thor announced. May fortune favor your primitive vessel, Captain. 3 hours later, the GSV Primal undocked from Nexus 7 and turned toward the outer rim. On the bridge, Engineer Hyun pulled up the ship's true specifications, the ones they hadn't shown the Council. Captain Ji-won studied them carefully. 7 days, he said quietly. Hyun, I want all systems tested and ready. If we're going to fight the swarm, I want to know exactly what this ship can do. Yes, sir, Hyun replied with a small smile. Should we prepare the special weapons? Everything, Ji-won confirmed. Let's show them what primitive really means. They mocked the primitive supercarrier, then learned humans built it. Part 1, the massive space station hung in orbit like a silver crown around the planet Praxis 7. Inside its grand exhibition halls, representatives from hundreds of alien civilizations gathered for the annual military technology exposition. The air hummed with dozens of languages, and the floors gleamed under the light of 1,000 holographic displays. Commander Tai Yang stood at attention in his crisp Earth Defense Force uniform. His dark eyes scanned the crowd as delegates walked past the human exhibition area. Most barely glanced at the humans before moving on to more interesting displays. Beside him, Lieutenant Hana checked her data pad for the 10th time that hour. They are not even stopping to look, Hana whispered. Tai Yang said nothing. He had expected this. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 years ago. The Galactic Assembly had granted them provisional membership just 6 months back. They were the newcomers, the babies of the galaxy. Everyone knew it. Ambassador Ji-won approached them with a diplomatic smile fixed on her face. She had been meeting with various alien delegates all morning. The smile did not reach her eyes. The Kryn delegation will tour our section in 10 minutes, she said quietly. Please be ready. The Kryn were one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Reptilian beings with shimmering scales and sharp intellects, they had conquered half their sector through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Their ships were legends. Their weapons could crack planets. Tai Yang straightened his uniform. Behind him, the holographic display showed the pride of Earth's fleet, the supercarrier Indomitable. The image rotated slowly, showing every angle of the massive vessel. It stretched over 2 kilometers long, bristling with launch bays and weapon ports. To Tai Yang, it was beautiful. To the galaxy he was about to discover, it was something else entirely. High Curator Velthrax arrived with an entourage of Kryn military advisors. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his scales gleaming like polished emeralds. His eyes fixed on the holographic display, and his mouth opened in what Tai Yang realized was a smile. Is this your primary warship? Velthrax asked. His voice carried across the exhibition area. Other delegates began to gather, curious about the commotion. Yes, High Curator, Ambassador Ji-won replied. This is the EDF Indomitable, our most advanced carrier. Velthrax leaned closer to the display. His advisors did the same. Then to Tai Yang's horror, the High Curator began to laugh. It was not a polite chuckle. It was a full, booming laugh that echoed through the hall. Chemical propulsion for your fighter craft? Velthrax pointed at the technical specifications. You still use combustion engines in space? More delegates gathered now. A crowd was forming. Our fighters are efficient and reliable, Tae-Yang said, keeping his voice steady. They have performed well in all tests. Tests, Velthrax repeated, still laughing. Of course, tests. Tell me, Commander, do these fighters also use kinetic weapons? Do you shoot metal bullets at your enemies? We use railguns, yes. Magnetically accelerated projectiles traveling at... The laughter grew louder. War Master Korval, an insectoid being from the Chiton Collective, had joined the crowd. His multiple eyes gleamed with amusement. Railguns. Korval clicked in his strange language. His translator device converted it to standard galactic speech. How wonderfully primitive. Do you also use swords and spears? The crowd of delegates laughed. Tae-Young felt heat rise in his face, but he remained at attention. Beside him, Hana's jaw was clenched tight. Your armor plating, another delegate called out. Is that physical armor? You do not use energy shields? We use layered composite armor, Tae-Yang explained. Ceramic and metal alloys designed to absorb and disperse impact. It does not require power and cannot be disrupted by electromagnetic pulses. It is like looking at a museum piece, Velthrax said. He was not laughing anymore, but his tone dripped with condescension. Tell me, Ambassador Ji-Won, how long ago did your people develop this design? 100 years? 200? The Indomitable launched 8 months ago, Ji-Won said. Her diplomatic smile had frozen on her face. It represents our current military capabilities. The crowd fell silent for a moment. Then the laughter returned louder than before. You built this recently? Korval seemed amazed. You achieved faster than light travel and chose to build ships from your pre-space era. This is remarkable. Remarkable and sad. A delegate from the Axian Confederacy spoke up. Do you at least have quantum communication? Artificial intelligence control systems? We use radio communication with encryption, Hana said. Her voice was tight with suppressed anger. Our pilots control their own craft. We do not trust AI with combat decisions. The Axion delegate turned to his companion and said something in his own language. The translator picked it up anyway. They are like children playing with toys. Admiral Hyunwoo had been standing at the back of the exhibition area. He was older than Tae-Yang, with gray at his temples and the weight of command in his bearing. He stepped forward now, his face carefully neutral. The Galactic Assembly welcomed humanity as members, Hyunwoo said calmly. We understood that we have much to learn from older civilizations. We present our capabilities honestly, without deception. Perhaps others could show the same courtesy. Velthrax turned his massive head toward the Admiral. For a moment, tension crackled through the air. Then the Kryn High Curator bowed slightly. Of course, Admiral. You are correct. We should not mock. He paused. But perhaps we should be honest as well. Your technology is centuries behind the galactic standard. Your weapons are crude. Your defenses are primitive. In a real conflict against a real threat, your ships would be destroyed in minutes. Perhaps, Hyunwoo said, we have no combat experience against galactic threats. Only against each other. Against each other with weapons like these? Korval gestured at the display. Then humanity is fortunate you have joined the assembly. Here you will have protection. You will not need these museum pieces. The crowd began to disperse. The entertainment was over. The delegates moved on to other exhibitions, where advanced civilizations displayed energy weapons that could disintegrate matter, shields that could deflect anything, and ships that could bend space itself. Tae-Yang stood motionless. He could hear his crew members in the adjacent area, their faces red with humiliation and anger. Young pilots who had trained their entire lives. Engineers who had poured their skills into the Indomitable, all of them listening as the galaxy laughed at their work. Ji-Won approached the command staff once the crowd had gone. The exposition committee has updated their assessment, she said quietly. They have placed the Indomitable in the lowest tier of military capability, below even the defensive platforms of the mining guilds. Lowest tier, Hana repeated. Her hands were shaking slightly. Tae-Yang placed a hand on her shoulder. We knew this might happen. We are the newcomers. Let them laugh. They are not wrong, Hyunwoo said. His voice was heavy. By their standards, by their technology, we are primitive. Our weapons are simple. Our defenses are basic. We cannot argue with their assessment. Then why did we come? Hana asked. Why did we bring the Indomitable here to be humiliated? Because the assembly required it, Ji-Won answered. As new members, we must participate in the exposition. It is tradition. Taeyang looked at the holographic display of the Indomitable. The ship rotated slowly, showing its scarred hull where testing had pushed it to its limits, showing its rows of launch bays where fighters sat ready, showing its railgun batteries that could throw metal slugs at incredible speeds. It was not beautiful by galactic standards. It did not shimmer with energy shields or glow with exotic power. It was just metal and ceramic, computers and cables, fuel and ammunition. It was built by human hands using human knowledge, designed to work in the harsh reality of combat, not in the clean simulations of peace. Let them laugh, Taeyang said again. One day they might understand. But he did not believe his own words. Not then. The galaxy had spoken, and the message was clear. Humanity's military was a joke, a relic, a primitive thing to be pitied. None of them knew that in 3 weeks, everything would change. Part 2 Station Aratok floated in the empty darkness between star systems. It was not beautiful or advanced. It was a trading hub, a place where merchants stopped to refuel and exchange goods. Over 2 million beings called it home, representing dozens of different species. They lived in different sections, spoke different languages, but shared one thing. They wanted peace and profit. Director Minsu managed the human quarter of the station. His office overlooked the docking bay where human merchant ships came and went. Today, he stood at the window and watched 3 ships prepare for departure. They would carry manufactured goods to the inner systems and return with raw materials. Simple trade. Safe trade. The alarm shattered that safety. Red lights flashed throughout the station. The communication system crackled to life in a dozen languages. Minsu's translator rendered the message in Korean. Emergency. Unknown fleet detected at system edge. All ships remain docked. All civilians to shelters. Minsu ran to his console. The display showed what the station's sensors had detected. His hands went cold. 200 ships, maybe more.